So yesterday we started with the definitions and we covered the definition of abridged prospectus, where we heard that, where we read that the abridged prospectus, it contains the salient features, right? The broad provisions of the prospectus. Then we also heard about the accounting standard, the accounting standard AS and Ind AS. We have to, and section 133 makes it mandatory. Now it is the NFRA which is going to make the accounting standards with effect from 1st October 2018. Now there is another standard which is again mandated, or which where NAFRA has got the jurisdiction. Can anyone say which is that standard? There is another standard apart from accounting standard. There is one more standard which is now under the jurisdiction of the NFRA. Very good. Yash has answered, right? Auditing standards. Oh, Muskan, Yash, Prathamesh, everyone has answered here. Okay, fine. Then we discussed alter appellate tribunal. So appellate tribunal. What is the full form of NCLT? It's National Company Law Tribunal. And this will be called as the tribunal. NCLT is called as the tribunal, and this is the appellate tribunal. And then the case goes to Supreme Court. We discussed about the articles, associate company. So who is associate of whom? A has 30% stake in B. Who is associate of whom? A is associate of B or B is associate of A? कौन किसका associate है? A holds 30% voting rights in B. B is associate of A. Very good. A is holding 60% shares. Now who is associate of whom? A is holding 60% shares in B. Now is B associate? Is B a associate company? Answer is no. Now B has become a subsidiary company. So subsidiary company, associate company excludes the subsidiary company here, right? So we discussed this in detail. So this just remember this. This is a very important chart. Just remember this. 20 to 50 is associate. More than 50%, then you become a subsidiary company. Then we discuss the auditing standards, right? Again, ICAI, the power has been given to NAFRA. So ICAI makes the auditing standard and then NAFRA approves it. Then the authorized share capital, right? Then the banking company board of directors. We discussed that board of directors is what? So you have individually a director, right? Individually, the person is called as the director and collectively they will be called as the board of directors or the board of the company, correct? Then body corporate. Thereafter, we discuss books and paper, books on accounts, branch office, called up capital. So this is what we learned again, right? So charge we had discussed. Then we had also discussed chartered accountant, CEO, CFO, company. So Vinith had asked in the previous lecture about the KMP. Will also cover the definition of KMP there. Then we discussed the two broad types of companies, the company limited by guarantee, the company limited by shares, in which we discussed that what do you mean by the company limited and unlimited. So company with whose members, the liability of the members is limited or the liability of the members is unlimited. The liability can be limited by shares or it can be by limited by guarantee. If the company is limited by shares, then the amount is to be paid on the unpaid calls, and guarantee in which the amount which is guaranteed, so which will be contributed at the time of the winding up of the company, and shares can be called. This unpaid calls can be made during the life of the company and also at the end of the company if the calls are unpaid, right? So what if you are holding a partly paid up share and the company is getting wound up? Then what do you become? A member who is holding a partly paid up share once the company enters into winding up becomes what? There is one term we discussed yesterday. Very good, very good. Contributory. Why? Saloni, contributory. Okay, contributor, contributory. Okay, correct. Otherwise, it's correct. So this is what we discussed. Then we discussed about the company liquidator and what is the winding up process. We discussed company secretary and company secretary in practice. Then we discussed contributory also, right? And then we discussed control. We also know that control is not quantified, which means there is no percentage. But then how control can be exercised? While learning this, we also learned how the resolutions are passed, how the decisions are taken in the company, ordinary resolution, special resolution, right? This is what we covered. Voting rights. This voting rights can be acquired by shareholding agreement, voting agreement, or any other subscription agreement, right? Thereafter, it can be again exercised individually or it can be exercised collectively, doesn't make a difference. Thereafter, We also discussed the definition of cost accountant and the definition of quote. We were discussing about the definition of debenture, where abruptly we had to end the lecture. So debenture is what? Debenture is just a security. Okay, debenture is a security which includes debentures, debenture stock, bond, or any other instrument. So like bond is also written here, but what is important, any other instrument which evidences a debt. And what is debt? Debt is essentially the borrowings. So if any instrument constitutes, if that instrument evidences a debt, if it shows that, if it that instrument has the features of a borrowing, then in that case we will say that this is a debenture, right? So this is what we cover. Now also remember one more thing, we have a proviso which has been added here, and here it says that the instrument referred to in chapter 3D of the Reserve Bank of India and such other instruments as prescribed by the central government in consultation with the Reserve Bank of India, which is issued by the company, shall not be treated as debenture. So why this amendment has been done? This amendment has been done certain because certain companies, especially the banking companies, where RBI has the jurisdiction, they wanted it to be out. So therefore, they have said that if it is well regulated by the Reserve Bank of India, the Reserve Bank of India will again in consultation with the central government, right, that is the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, they'll discuss and they'll notify that these debentures are not like these instruments, even though they have the effect of borrowing, even they have the features of the borrowing, they have the features of a debt, but still it will not be considered as debenture, right? So what kind of definition is this? It has covered all, and then there is a exclusion list, right? आपको ये समझ में आया पॉइंट? ये डेफिनेशन कैसा बनाया है? जब इंक्लूसिव डेफिनेशन बनाया, they have said all the instrument, right, which evidences debt is a debenture. But then they have said, okay, we will create a list where we will say that okay, these are not debentures, others will be called as debenture. 3D क्या है? Where it is contributory. विनीत कौन सा पॉइंट बता रहे हो आप? ए, ओके, सो आप ये देखो, आरबीआई एक्ट जो है उसके अंदर कुछ इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स है, ठीक है, जो चैप्टर 3D है आपका, उसमें कुछ इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स है जो कि एलिजिबल कंपनीज, मतलब ये हर कंपनी इशू नहीं कर सकता, इसमें जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स बताया हुआ है वो बैंकिंग कंपनीज है एंड शॉर्ट टर्म फंड रेजिंग और के लिए वो यूज करते हैं। उसको यहाँ पर क्या बताया हुआ है कि ये लोग अपने जो बैंकिंग कंपनीज है और जो एलिजिबल कंपनीज है, जो रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया जैसे एनबीएफसी वगैरह हो गया, उन लोगों को बोला हुआ है कि अगर वो लोग इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स को इशू करते हैं तो उसको डिबेंचर की कैटेगरी में आप मत डालो। So this is for certain class of companies. This is not for normal company, right? Then अभी आप ये देखना, what is relevant is this. आप ये देख लो, any instrument. This is very very relevant. Any instrument, okay, of a company which evidences debt. खत्म। तो आपको बस ये देखना है, कोई भी इंस्ट्रूमेंट है अगर उसमें डेट के फीचर्स हैं तो यू वुड से दैट इट इज व्हाट, इट इज बाय द, it is a debenture which is issued by the company. Okay, now एक चीज ध्यान रखना, who can issue who can issue the debentures? जो ये पावर टू इशू द डिबेंचर्स है ये किसके पास है? ध्यान रखना, ये आगे भी हम लोग इसको पढ़ेंगे। द पावर टू इशू debentures is to be collectively exercised by the board of directors, right? Usually what happens, the board of directors, they authorize, amongst them they authorize few of the directors and they do the work, but here the power is to be collectively exercised by the board. Just remember when we study the debentures chapter. Now then next we have is the definition of deposit. Now you see deposit definition, so any receipt of money. See how weird this definition is. Deposit includes any receipt of money. by way of deposit. थोड़ा फनी नहीं लग रहा ये डेफिनेशन? Any receipt of money. Deposit means any receipt of money by way of deposit. Then they have added or by way of loan, okay, or in any other form by the company, but does not include such categories of amount as may be prescribed in consultation with the Reserve Bank of India. So definition थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे weird है, but otherwise अगर आप deposit के definition को देखोगे तो deposit का definition भी कैसा है? You will have to refer rule 2 sub rule 1 clause C of companies acceptance of deposit rules. Acceptance of deposit rules 2014. There this has been prescribed. So there is a long list what is not considered as a deposit, but otherwise if you see the definition of deposit, any receipt of money by way of deposit is deposit. Now definition is bit weird, but again when you read this rule, right, we are not going to cover this rule right now, we'll cover this when we study the chapter deposit, but when you will read this rule then you will get a clear picture. So again if you see, this is a catch-all provision, just like the definition of debenture, all of them are debenture except, so same way you have any receipt of money will be considered as deposit, and then they have created the exceptions. Like for example, you have paid fees to me. Now technically I'm an individual, but let's say I'm a company and you have paid fees to me. Now is that considered as a deposit? Answer is yes, because any receipt of money, this is any receipt of money. Now you will say, sir, but the receipt should be by way of deposit. Okay, I have not given you deposit, I've given you the fees. Then there is loan, sir, I'm not given you loan also, but then they have what, it is in any other form by the company. So technically when you pay fees to a company, okay, or when let's say when you purchase any goods of a company, you go to, let's say you go to a shopping mall, okay, and you purchase ITC Mad Angles. The money ultimately goes to ITC. Is it a deposit? When you have purchased ITC Mad Angles, right? You are giving money to ITC. Directly or indirectly, the money goes to ITC. You recharge the Reliance Geo connection. The money goes to Reliance. So even this is deposit. Yes or no? As per the definition, even this is deposit. Yes or no? Because what is essentially the definition says that any receipt of money by way of deposit. So when you give money to the company stating that this is a deposit, that is a deposit, right? So any receipt of money, okay, by way of a deposit is a deposit. Then if you give loan to the company, that is also a deposit, and any other form. So all this is deposit. Then you have the rule which creates exception list, where one of the list is if the money is received in the ordinary course of business, then it is not a deposit. So now with the rule, we have a clarification that if ITC is receiving any money while it is selling its products, right? If Geo is getting any money from their subscriber, that will not be considered as deposit because that is in the ordinary course of business. Guys, do you get the definition of deposit? We have one dedicated chapter on deposits, full chapter on deposits, but could you get what kind of or what is the implication of the definition is, right? Kitna स्ट्रिंजेंट डेफिनेशन बनाए, कैच ऑल प्रोविजन। ऐसे डेफिनेशंस को मैं बोलता हूं कैच ऑल, मतलब कुछ भी मिला वो आपके लिए डिपॉजिट है। यहाँ पे कोई भी इंस्ट्रूमेंट है जो डेट को एविडेंस कर देता है वो डिबेंचर हो गया, राइट। और डिबेंचर हो गया मतलब सारे के सारे रूल्स आपके ऊपर एप्लीकेबल हो जाएंगे। सेम वे, if the amount is considered as deposit, all the rules which are related to deposits is applicable on you. So they have made it this way, but then very smartly they have created this exception. You'll come across such kind of provisions all across in income tax as well as in your Companies Act. In Companies Act and in income tax, both the places you will find these kind of definitions, जहां पे मतलब मैं जैसे कई बार CS एग्जीक्यूटिव वालों को NBFC पढ़ाता हूँ, तो वहां पर ऐसा रहता है। आपने ये टर्म सुना है, नॉन बैंकिंग फाइनेंस कंपनी, NBFC? इसके बारे में सुना है आपने? बजाज फिनसर्व आपने अगर देखा हो ऑनलाइन व्हेन यू परचेज, सो NBFC, the definition of NBFC is what? The definition of NBFC is like all of you are NBFC, all the companies are NBFC. You'll be surprised to know even a stockbroker is NBFC. Even the stockbroker is considered as NBFC. But then stockbroker does not have to go to Reserve Bank of India, because stockbroker goes to the Securities and Exchange Board of India. So the definitions are made in such a way that we want all of them. So देखो, law को बनाने का दो तरीका. I think I had discussed about the service tax. Had I discussed with you service tax? How the service tax was introduced and how the list was made? Okay, so just see, when service tax was introduced, they said that on these three services, service tax will be levied. Then they added two more services next financial year and they said on these five services, service tax will be levied. Then they again added five more services. They said now on 10 services, the service tax will be levied. Same way, next year they said another three services, on these 13 services, service tax will be levied, right? Gradually, this list expanded and it went up to 28. Now government said that enough. Now public and everyone is now settled. Okay. Everyone has accepted the concept of service tax. So what we are going to do, we will make a negative list where we will say any kind of service, right? Any kind of service, you will have to pay service tax. And then they created a negative list which is called as exception, and they said that if you're providing these services, no service tax, otherwise service tax will be applicable everywhere. Got the point? Definition कैसे बनाया guys, आपको समझ में आया? और ऐसा क्यों करना पड़ा? Just see the basic condition. Let's say government says that if you go for a haircut, like if a barber is giving you a haircut, on this haircut 10% service tax is to be paid. Simple. Now you go for haircut, further you go for a shave, further let's say you go for a chumpy, right? So haircut, the price is 500 rupees. Shave, let's say the price is 200 rupees. Chumpy, the price is 100 rupees. Okay. So collectively you need to pay 800 rupees if you go for the individual services. But you booked a combo where you said that I want to go for a haircut and a shave and a chumpy, plus I will also go for shampoo and all. So the barber said that I'll give you a discount price of 500 rupees. Now the problem is, on this there is no service tax, on this there is no service tax, but on this there is service tax. So 500 ka 10%, 50 rupees ka service tax pay kar do. But when you are paying 500 rupees collectively for all the services, now it becomes a difficulty. Got the point? Guys, got the point? Now it is a difficulty that service tax kiske upar laga hai, because you have given a bundle of services on which few are taxable and the few are the balance, one is taxable and the other few are not taxable. So इस टाइप के प्रॉब्लम्स आने लगे, तो गवर्नमेंट ने बोला अच्छा बच्चों तुम इस तरह से प्लानिंग कर रहे हो, मेरा प्लानिंग दूसरा है। अब क्या कर दिया गवर्नमेंट ने बोला जितने भी तरह के सर्विसेज है सबके ऊपर सर्विस टैक्स लगेगा, एक्सेप्ट जो लिस्ट में मैंने बना के रखा हुआ है। तो अब अगर आप हेयर कट कराओ, शेव कराओ, चंपी कराओ, कुछ भी करो, अभी कई बार ऐसा भी होता था, लोग बोलते थे हम लोगों ने हेयर कट नहीं करवाया, हम लोगों ने हेयर स्टाइलिंग करवाया है। सो हेयर कट के ऊपर तो सर्विस टैक्स है, बट हेयर स्टाइलिंग के ऊपर सर्विस टैक्स नहीं है। आया आपको समझ में? तो गवर्नमेंट को क्या हो गया, नुकसान होने लगा, because we are very good at planning. The law is made and simultaneously we find people who will find loopholes in the law. Do you understand loopholes? ये एक loophole हो गया, this is a loophole. हेयर कट के ऊपर 10% है, फाइन, वी आर नॉट डूइंग हेयर कट, वी आर जस्ट डूइंग हेयर स्टाइलिंग. अभी वो हेयर स्टाइलिंग में थोड़ा सा हेयर कट करना पड़ता है, तो इट इज फाइन, बट एसेंशियली यू कैन नॉट कॉल इट एज हेयर कट. आपको इनफैक्ट मैं बताऊं, देयर इज अ जजमेंट, राइट, वेयर देयर वाज अ हेयर ऑयल. ओके, नाउ हेयर ऑयल इज अ ब्यूटी प्रोडक्ट और दिस इज मेडिसिन. हेयर ऑयल, हेयर ऑयल इज अ ब्यूटी प्रोडक्ट और हेयर ऑयल इज अ मेडिसिन. हेयर ऑयल को आप क्या बोलोगे? Is it a cosmetic product or this is a medicine product? Now I'll tell you why we are debating on this, because if it is a cosmetic, you will be taxed at the rate, let's say 18%. But if it is a medicine, it will be taxed, let's say at the rate 5%. So the company wants it to be taxed at 5%. However, the service tax, that is CBEC, right? The department said that no, this is what, this is a cosmetic product, so 18%. Now I will tell you how the law plays into a law comes into the picture and how you play with the words. Now the person said that this particular company, they said that hair oil is a cosmetic product. Even we believe hair oil is a cosmetic product, but the oil which we are selling, it is not for hair, it is for head. It is for head. It does not beautify your hairs. It only preserves your hair and it allows, hair growth में help करेगा. So this is not for hair, this is for head, and hence this is what, this is a medicine, and hence 5%. आया आपको समझ में वर्डिंग्स के साथ कैसे खेला जाता है? पढ़ा? So now whether it's a hair oil or it is a head oil, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. We have done the definition in such a way because we find these kind of situations. So when the government wants to catch everyone, so it says that tum sab chor ho. Now we make an exception list, and in that exception list, if you fall, you are saved. Otherwise, you all are into the definition. तो ये उस type का definition है where they said that everything is deposit, any receipt of money is deposit, and then they have created a negative list, this exception by way of rule, where they said okay, if you are receiving money from these sources or in these circumstances, it will not be considered as deposit, otherwise this will be considered as deposit. Guys, do you get why we have these kind of definitions? Because deposits के साथ में rules होते हैं, डिपॉजिट्स के साथ में रूल्स होते हैं, इसमें बहुत सारे कंप्लायंसेस होते हैं, और डिपॉजिट्स की वजह से कई बार स्कैम्स हो जाता है. चेक सहारा, सहारा स्कैम, चेक सहारा स्कैम, चेक शारदा चिट फंड, राइट, ये सारे स्कैम्स हो गए सब डिपॉजिट के चक्कर में. सो गवर्नमेंट वांट दैट इफ कंपनी इज गेटिंग अ डिपॉजिट, वी शुड हैव अ जुरिस्डिक्शन ओवर दैट कंपनी. हमें उसको एक, वो बोलते हैं ना, लक्ष्मी चिट अरे बाप रे, लक्ष्मी चिट फंड, फॉर अ सेकंड आई थॉट एक्चुअली इट इज अ कंपनी. Yes, so Lakshmi Chit Fund, right? So company does not want that if a company receives deposit, it should just get away. We want a strong jurisdiction, we want a strong control over this. Therefore we have to define deposit in such a way that everything will be considered as deposit, and now the company just cannot get away with the provisions and the compliances. Got the point guys? ये समझा आपको? ये वाला पॉइंट क्लियर हुआ? डिपॉजिट, तो इस तरह का डेफिनेशंस आपको कई बार देखने को मिलेगा, ठीक है, इनकम टैक्स के अंदर भी और कंपनीज एक्ट के अंदर भी. ओके, लेट्स सी देन नेक्स्ट डेफिनेशन. सो द नेक्स्ट डेफिनेशन दैट वी हैव is the definition of depository. Now depository is a new concept. 1996 में depositories का concept इंडिया में आया. So why does the depository concept comes into the picture? It is basically earlier there used to be share certificates. These share certificates were in physical form. So you are going to find a certificate which is in the paper. Here the company's name is written and here it is. This share belongs to, and there is a seal here. Company's director are going to sign. So this used to be the physical form. But then since technology evolved, we said that let's convert these share certificates into electronic form, and these share certificates were converted into electronic form by the depositories okay. The share certificates are now, or basically the shares are not just shares, any securities you purchase mutual fund. Earlier you used to get a paper, right? But now you don't get that paper. It is now everything in the electronic form and it is stored with the depository. So the Depositories Act was passed in the year 1996, and then we had depositories. So depositories at present, what at present depositories are the intermediaries. Okay, these depositories are to be registered with the Securities and Exchange Board of India. And at present in India, there are only two depositories. One is NSDL and the other one is CDSL. NSDL is National Securities Depository Limited. Yes, NSDL is also a depository, correct? So National Securities Depository Limited, and CDSL is Central Depository Services Limited. So two depositories are there, NSDL and CDSL. Guys, this is clear. Today we will also get the other side of the definition of depository. We'll see how does it impact when we study the definition of members. So आज की डेट में क्या होता है? Company. So earlier company used to issue share certificates to the investors. Sorry, but now company will get into agreement with the depository, and the depository will issue the shares to the investors. Okay, so we'll see this when we study the definition of member. Then we have the definition of derivative. So derivatives are what? Derivatives are essentially the contracts. Okay, derivatives are basically the contracts which are entered by the company. So these are contracts which are entered by the company. Okay, you'll study the practical side of derivatives when you get into CA final. So in your SFM, there is a subject called Strategic Financial Management. There you are going to study how these contracts are entered, but you must have heard about futures and options. Have you heard of it? Futures and options. क्या आपने इसके बारे में सुना है? कई बार CNBC वगैरह अगर आप देखते हो तो वहां पर आपको ये देखने को मिलेगा. You'll find this word in the F&O segment. You will find this. So these are what? These are derivatives. Okay. आपने शायद एक और टर्म सुना होगा, hedging. Hedging. Have you heard of this? Hedging. Hedging is also what? Hedging is also a derivatives. Okay. Why derivative contracts are made? Why you enter into a derivative contract? This is to manage the risk. Derivative contracts are entered so that you can manage the risk in advance, right? Derivatives contract can be entered with the securities, like you can enter into the derivative contract for the securities. You can also enter into the derivative contract for the interest rates. You can enter into a derivative contract for foreign exchange, the currency, right? You can enter into derivative contract for any item, any commodity, gold, silver, rice, copper, zinc, everything you can get into the contract, right? So basically this is derivative. In detail, you will understand derivatives when you study your strategic financial management in CA final. Okay. Then you have the definition of director. So I said you that director is basically the person who is controlling the company, and collectively they are called as the board of directors. So they are controlling the company in the way they are controlling the management of the company, right? They are also into the fiduciary position. If I say director, what do you mean by fiduciary position? What do you mean by fiduciary position? What do you mean by fiduciary position? Can influence. Okay. What else? Okay. Why the person can influence? If I say I can influence you, have substantial interest, trustworthy. Okay. So fiduciary position. So directors, they are in the fiduciary position for both the company as well as the shareholders. The company as well as the shareholder. Okay. Are the directors trustees? Are the directors trustees of the shareholder? Can I say the directors are the trustees of shareholder? Can I say directors are trustees of shareholder? Answer is no. They are not trustee. They are in the fiduciary position, but they are not the trustees, right? They are not trustee for the individual shareholder. They are trustee for the whole company. Trustee for the whole company and not the individual shareholder. Okay. Then you have the definition of dividend. So what is dividend? Dividend is basically the return paid to the shareholders. Dividend is the return which is paid to the shareholders. And then there are two types of dividend. One is called as the final dividend and the other is called as the interim dividend. Now just understand the concept. When I say dividend, there are two types of dividend. One is called as the final dividend. The other is called as the interim dividend. Now, how do you get this? So, where is the dividend declared? 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 AGM. Okay, the annual general meeting. Resolution is passed, correct, Vinit? Ordinary resolution is passed. Okay, so let's say this is the financial year. So 1st April 2020 and the financial year ends on 31st March 2021. Okay, so this is the financial year. The AGM of this company for this financial year will take place here. So this is 31st March 2022. Okay. So this is, let's say, financial year 2021. The AGM will take place somewhere here in the next financial year. So this is financial year 1. This is financial year 2. So here, let's say the AGM takes place. So this will be the AGM, and this will be the AGM for financial year 2021. Got it? Guys, got it? First financial year का AGM second financial year में होगा. Now let's say if a AGM takes place here on this date, this is the AGM for which year? This is AGM for which year? Very good. This is AGM for 1920. Okay. So in this AGM, company is going to issue final dividend, which is called as FD. I'll call this as FD, and this I'll call it as ID. This I'll call it as ID. So in this financial year, in the AGM, final dividend is declared. Then the next final dividend will be declared in this AGM. So here you will another have the FD. Got it? हर साल AGM में final dividend declare होगा. Okay. Now the time gap between these two, इन दोनों के बीच में, that's between two final dividend, if any dividend is declared, this is called as the interim dividend. Got it? Got it? Do you get this? Just 1 minute. I'll add one more blank slide here. Okay. So I'll add one more blank. I've added one more blank slide here. So just understand that final dividend is declared in the annual general meeting of the company. Okay. When is interim dividend declared? Interim dividend is declared between two final dividends. Okay. Or you can say between two AGMs. Now, since final dividend is declared in the AGM, who will declare the final dividend? Who will declare the final dividend? Who is the approving authority? So final dividend is proposed by the board of directors, and then it is approved by the members. Yes, approved by the shareholders, or this is approved by the members. But when it comes to interim dividend is both proposed and declared by the board of directors. Got it? Is this clear? Also, final dividend belongs to a financial year, right? But interim dividend belongs to the current financial year. This you can say a financial year, that is the previous financial year. But interim dividend, it belongs to the current financial year. Also, if I say company declared 30% dividend, right? And I say company's profit after tax is 1 lakh. Also, I give you information that number of shares in the company is 10,000. Face value is rupees 2. The current market price is rupees 5. Can anyone say what is the amount of dividend? What is the amount of dividend? What is the amount of dividend? 6,000. Saloni is saying 6,000. Okay. So the most incorrect answer would be if you say 30% of profit after tax. This is wrong. Then the next incorrect answer will be if you say 30% of the market price into the number of shares. This is also wrong. What is the correct answer here? The correct answer will be, it will be 30% of the face value into the number of shares. So in this case, the amount of dividend would be face value rupees 2 into the rate of dividend, that is 30%, into the number of shares, which is 10,000. So dividend will be equal to 2 into 30% into 10,000, which is 6,000 rupees. Clear? Everyone clear? Is this clear? Okay. Do remember that dividend is not paid as a part of percentage of profit after tax. It is not paid as a part of percentage of the market price. Dividend is always as a part of percentage of the face value, the dividend rate. Okay. Now this is very important because when I was in my CA intermediate, I purchased shares of ITC. I purchased for somewhere around 158 rupees. Okay. This is back, I'm telling you, 2007, 2008. And company declared the face value of the share was rupees 1. Okay. Company declared 300% dividend, or it was 500% dividend. So I thought 300% of 158. So it was a very unbelievable amount for me. I started planning, I'll buy this, I'll buy that. But then I got to know it was 300% of 1 rupee. Ujjwal, trust me, I have another disappointing story of mine with respect to ITC. When I'll explain you bonus issue, I will tell you why education, a proper education and a proper guidance is important, and not just the theoretical knowledge. I had a theoretical knowledge, and based on ITC, I actually threw a party believing that I made a profit of 3 lakh rupees. However, my profit amount was 0. Waiting for bonus issue. Right? I'll explain you. I'll explain you that how it happened. But anyway, right? So just remember these provisions with respect to dividend. So dividend, final dividend is declared for the financial year in the AGM. So here the final dividend which will be declared, this final dividend belongs to which financial year? This final dividend belongs to which financial year? 1920 or 2021? The final dividend belongs to which financial year in this AGM? This final dividend is for the financial year 1920. Okay. Guys, this is clear. Is this point clear? Right? Okay. Let's take another example. This is 1st April 2019 and this is 31st March 2020. Now I say this is, let's say, 1st September. This is 1st September 2019 and I say company has declared 10% dividend, right? Now you need to identify whether it is final dividend or it is interim dividend. So which is one information you will look for? Which is one information you will look for to identify whether it is a final dividend or it is an interim dividend? If you can answer this correct, I'll be convinced that you have understood dividend properly. How will you identify? Someone is seeking your expert opinion and they come to you and they say, बेटा हमें यहाँ पे कंपनी ने 40 रुपीस का डिविडेंड दिया है, ये क्या है, फाइनल डिविडेंड है या इंटरिम डिविडेंड है? हाउ विल यू आइडेंटिफाई? On what basis you will identify? Depends on the MOA of the company. What is MOA to do here? Correct. Ronak has answered. When the AGM had happened. So you will ask that on 1st September, was it the AGM or not? Or this dividend was declared in the AGM or not? Correct, Saloni. So if it was an annual general meeting where this dividend was declared, so this is what? This is a final dividend. If answer is no, then this is what? This is an interim dividend. Got it? Ujjwal, clear? Is this clear? Right? Simple. Right? Just see whether the dividend is declared in AGM or it is declared not in AGM. If it is declared in AGM, this is FD. If else, otherwise this is interim dividend. Okay. If this is final dividend, this belongs to which year? And this belongs to which year? If this is final dividend, this belongs to which year? And if this is interim dividend, this 40 rupees, this is final dividend, then this belongs to which year? And this interim dividend belongs to which year? FD, Ronak is saying previous year 1920. So just see, the AGM is happening in, correct. So this is 1819. But if it is interim dividend, then this belongs to 1920. Perfect. So dividend portion is clear to you all. Remember the concept of dividend when you study consolidation of accounts. In group 2, you have this consolidation of accounts. Remember these concepts. The same concepts will get repeated. If you remember this well, you will not face problem in consolidation. Okay. Next, we have the definition of document, where they say document includes summon, notice, requisition, order, declaration, form, and register, whether issued, sent, or kept in pursuance of this act or any other law, whether it is maintained in the paper form or in the electronic form. So everything is what? Everything is document. Then we have the definition of ESOP. ESOP is not just a definition for you. ESOP is both the concept as well as the accounting side you will have to study. So the concept of ESOP, the legal formalities, you are going to study in law, and its accounting treatment you are going to study in accounts. So you'll have to study both. ESOP is that important concept. So if you see the full form of ESOP, ESOP is employees stock option. Okay. So basically it's a option which is given to the employees that they can purchase the shares. Okay. So it has got three words. It is the option which is given to the employees. Okay. And what is the option? That they can subscribe for the shares. They can subscribe or they can purchase the shares of the company. Now you will say, sir, इसमें employees को option क्या देना? They can go to market and they can also purchase. If you are employee of Reliance Industries, why company will give you option? You can go to market and you can buy the shares of Reliance if you want to buy. If you don't want to buy, you'll not buy. So why all this? Why this company is giving an option on all these things? So when company is giving you the option to purchase the shares of the company, this is at a lower rate as compared to market. This is as compared to the market price. And why this is lower? So let's say today the price of the share, the current market price of the share, let's say is 1000. So company will say that after 2 years, okay, after 2 years, you can buy the shares at the rate, let's say 1000 rupees, or let's say 900 rupees, or let's say whatever the price was, you can purchase it for, let's say 1000 rupees only, or you can purchase it for 900 rupees. Now tell me one thing, if you can purchase the shares of the company at 900 rupees, is this the market price? Answer is no. After 2 years, quite possible the market price of the share is 2500, but still you will be able to buy the share at 900 rupees. Got it? भले ही मार्केट प्राइस 2 साल बाद 2500 रुपया हो जाए, बट फिर भी आपके पास ऑप्शन होगा कि आप क्या कर सकते हो, कंपनी से ये 900 रुपीज में शेयर्स को खरीद सकते हो. इट्स बेसिकली अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. ओके, इट्स बेसिकली अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट between the company and employees. So this is a contract, right? फिर तो परचेस करके इमीडिएटली सेल कर देंगे, नेमिन ने ऐसा बोला. बट नेमिन, इसमें रेस्ट्रिक्शंस होते हैं जिसको हम बोलते हैं लॉक इन पीरियड. ओके, इसमें रेस्ट्रिक्शंस होता है जिसको हम बोलते हैं लॉक इन पीरियड. सो ड्यूरिंग द लॉक इन पीरियड यू कैन नॉट सेल दीज शेयर्स. सो आपको ये शेयर्स अलॉट हुए, उसके बाद लेट्स से आपको 1 साल का लॉक इन पीरियड दे दिया, तो अब इस लॉक इन पीरियड के अंदर आप इस कंपनी के शेयर्स को नहीं बेच सकते. पॉइंट समझा आपको? राइट. दूसरा यहां पे एक डाउट आया है जिसमें ये पूछा जा रहा है कि व्हेन द कंपनी कैन बाय, व्हेन द कंपनी व्हेन द एम्प्लॉय कैन बाय. सो ये आपका प्री डिटरमाइंड होगा. दिस विल बी प्री डिटरमाइंड. व्हेन द एम्प्लॉय कैन बाय, दिस विल बी प्री डिटरमाइंड. ओके, लेट्स से जब आपके साथ ये ऑप्शन आपको दिया जा रहा है, तो आपको उसी टाइम पर बोल दिया आफ्टर 2 years यू कैन बाय, आफ्टर 1 year यू कैन बाय. ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि आपको आपको इंस्टॉलमेंट में वो हो. They can also say that, let's say, take it this way. So today is year 2021. So what I can do, I can give you, or I can give my employees option this way, that 2022 में आप 50 शेयर्स ले लेना, 2023 में आप 30 शेयर्स एक्सरसाइज कर लेना, एंड 2024 में आप 20 शेयर्स एक्सरसाइज कर लेना. सो टुडे आई एम रेम्यूनरेटिंग माय एम्प्लॉय by giving the employee 100 ESOP, and 100 ESOP will be exercised like this. I can also have different rates. I'll say 500 you can exercise for, let's say, 900 rupees, which is the current market price. आज का price 900 rupees है. This you can apply for 1000 rupees, and this you can apply for 1050 rupees. ऐसा भी हो सकता है. There is no problem. Okay. So Ronak has asked a question, sir, if I accepted ESOP today, but later after 1 year, I leave the company. So later, can I get those shares at the contracted price? Answer is no, you cannot. Answer is no, you cannot. You cannot exercise. I'll show you the concept also. How does ESOP work? Okay. So this is the exercise price. So I write it this. It is possible that the market price at the end of the year 2022, when you are actually going to exercise this, quite possible the market price is, let's say, 1500 rupees. So if the market price is 1500, will you exercise the option, or you will not exercise the option? You'll say yes, I am going to exercise the option because 600 का benefit अभी के अभी मेरे को मिल रहा है. वो बात और है, राइट? वो बात और है कि नेमिन मैं उसको अभी बेच नहीं सकता, बट 600 का बेनिफिट तो मेरे को इमीडिएटली मिल रहा है, सो आई विल बाय. ओके. बट इफ, लेट्स से, इन द ईयर 2023 स्टॉक मार्केट क्रैश हो गया और ये शेयर अभी 600 का मिल रहा है, विल यू एक्सरसाइज द ऑप्शन? आंसर इज नो. यू विल से why to buy it for 1000 rupees, where else I can go in the market and I can apply and I can buy it for 600 rupees only, right? So here there is a risk which the employees take when they accept ESOP. So companies like, so any big company which gives employees ESOP, and later on we get to know that that company has done some fraud or the market has crashed, then the employees stock option is now worthless. So basically here you will say the stock option is worthless, right? So companies like Satyam, अगर आप सत्यम इंडस्ट्रीज को देखोगे, सत्यम कंप्यूटर्स, तो सत्यम कंप्यूटर में क्या हुआ था? स्टॉक मार्केट उसमें स्कैम हुआ, स्कैम होने के बाद प्राइस क्रैश हो गया. सो यही वाला सिनेरियो हुआ. You have been given an option to exercise at 1000 rupees. However, market price is 600. So there is no use. You will not exercise. Just pick up companies like Enron. Enron यूएसए की कंपनी थी, कॉर्पोरेट स्कैंडल बहुत लार्ज स्केल पे हुआ था. सत्यम, you can also see Kingfisher Airlines, right? All these companies. Nitin Fire, Yash has answered Nitin Fire. I don't know about this company. Nitin Fire, no idea. But yes, there is a risk involved in case of employee stock option, that when the option is to be okay. So Yash is telling his personal experience. Yash father had got the ESOP and then the price crashed, right? So there is always a risk. So if you are taking ESOP of a good company, right, and everything remains good in that good company, then it's fine. Otherwise, we have seen some good companies, like no one had thought that Satyam will crash. No one thought that Enron is going to crash, right? Okay, so Yash has said that the price of Nitin Fire went from 550 to 50 paisa. So just imagine, right? So there is always a risk involved in terms of ESOP. Okay. Now again, answering to this question, employees, the lock-in period and all those things. Now again, one more thing. The option is being given to the employees. Now tell me, what does the word option means? Is it mandatory or is it at the discretion of the employee? Is it mandatory? No, this is not mandatory. आओ तो welcome, नहीं आओ तो भीड़ कम. Simple. Okay. So if you want to exercise the option, you are free to exercise. If you do not want to exercise the option, it's your call. Okay. So in terms of ESOP, just remember there are 3 dates which is important. So here we say the options are granted. Okay. Here I say the options are granted. Here I say the options are vested. And here I say the option lapses. Just understand term by term each and everything. So let's say this is 1st April 2021, where I said to my employee that after 3 years, the employee can exercise or the employee can buy 1000 shares of the company at the rate rupees 125 each. So technically, I have granted ESOP to my employee. But can the employee exercise the option right now? Can the employee exercise the option right now? Answer is no. The employee cannot exercise the option right now. Okay. So this is that 3 years time period. So from 1st April 2021 to 31st March 2022, 23, 24. So this is 1st April 2024. So basically now the employee can exercise the option. The employee can exercise the option. And what does this mean? That the employee can buy the shares of the company at the exercise price. And what is the exercise price? This 125 rupees. This is the exercise price. Okay. Now, will the company wait for n number of years? That okay, the employee is going to come and the employee is going to exercise the option, or there will be validity. There will be some time period within which the option should be exercised. So there will be some time period. There will be validity. So this is the time period within which the option should be exercised. If the option is not exercised during this period by this date, so this is basically, you can say, this is the due date. So if the option is not exercised till this date, then in that case, the option lapses. So here if I say, if option is not exercised, then it lapses. Means the option is no longer available. वो scheme गया. So the due date will depend on when the option is exercised to you. This can be anything. So this due date will also be, this is predetermined. It will not be mentioned in the articles. This will be predetermined. So this can be, let's say, 3 months. This can be, let's say, 15 days. This can be, let's say, 6 months. This can also be 1 year. It could be anything, but whatever it is, it will be predetermined when the option is granted. Got it? Guys, is this clear? Is this clear? Okay. Now we'll use two words. So from, again, I'll make this timeline. So this is where I said the option is granted. This is where I say the option is vested. And here I say the option gets lapsed. Right? Okay. So when ESOP is granted, you take the shareholders approval. So here Ronak has asked a question. Is it determined by the company? Is there any role of the shareholder in decision making of ESOP? Of course, yes, because when the company is going to grant ESOP, right, this is granted via special resolution, right? So this ESOP is granted via special resolution, via special resolution. So in that resolution, everything will be mentioned. Who are the employees? Why you are giving them? Right? Everything will be mentioned there. What is going to be the exercise price? During what time it will get lapsed? Everything will be mentioned there. So this is granted, vesting, and this. So this time period is called as vesting period. Okay. This is called as vesting period. This is called as exercise period. So just to remember why this is called as exercise period, because here the option can be exercised. The option can be exercised. What is this? Vesting period, because here the employee will have to wait. So this is the waiting period. The option cannot be exercised. Here we say the options are unvested. So just remember, during vesting period, the options are unvested. And during the exercise period, the options are vested options. So if I say the vested option has expired, what does it mean? If I say the vested options have expired, this means what? If I say vested options have expired, what does it mean? Ritik has answered lapse. Yash, everyone is answering lapse. Okay. So if I say the vested options expired, this implies employee did not exercise. Okay. Employee did not exercise the ESOP. What if I say the unvested option has expired? What if I say the unvested option has expired? Naaman, I'm answering your question now. If I say the unvested option has expired, this means the employee has left the job during vesting period. So one of the condition is the employee should remain in the employment, right? No. Vineet, clear? If I say unvested option has expired, which means, see, unvested option, आपने जो बोला ना Vineet, employee can exercise. Then I will say the unvested options has now become vested option. Then I can say the employee can exercise. But unvested option, it is if it has expired, this implies that the employee has left the job, which means options gaya. Job के साथ option भी गया. Got it? Right? अब हम ESOP के definition पे आते हैं. मैंने आपको ESOP का पूरा concept बता दिया. Now let's understand the definition of ESOP. Right? मुद्दे की बात तो ये थी. So what is ESOP? Just see, it's the employee's stock option. So this means the option which is given to directors, officers, or the employees of the company. Also, the employee of the holding company or the employee of subsidiary company, if any, which gives the director, employees, or officers the benefit or the right to purchase or subscribe for the shares of the company at a future date at a predetermined price. Is this clear? ESOP clear हुआ आप लोगों को? Right? Very, very important concept. Accounts as well as in law. Both the cases, right? Okay. So just remember when you study the same concept in accounts, and similarly, if you study any concept in accounts which gets replicated in law, or any concept that you study in audit which gets replicated in law, you should be in a position to correlate both the concepts and apply your mind. So this is one of that. Okay, let's go to the next definition then. Next definition is of the expert. So are you an expert? Are you an expert? Just see the definition. Are you an expert? बिल्कुल सर, हम चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स बनेंगे. रौनक is saying in process. Yash is saying studying to be an expert. Yash is saying I am work in progress. Future expert, correct? So you've got it. So you have a engineer, then a valuer, then chartered accountant, then you also have company secretary, then a cost accountant, and then any other person who has the authority or the power to issue a certificate in pursuance of law. Can I say doctor is also an expert? Can I say doctor is also an expert? Can I say doctor is an expert? No. Why? Why? Can doctor issue a certificate? No. ये झूठा सर्टिफिकेट फिर किससे बनाया था? फ्रैक्चर हो गया, बीमार हो गए. So technically even doctor can come into this. Can I say architect is an expert? Can I say architect is an expert? Architect. Can I say architect is an expert? Yes, because even architects can issue certificate. Can I say interior designer is an expert? Can I say interior designer is an expert? No, no, no. Interior designer will not be considered as an expert. Okay. So just see why, because there is no Interior Designer Act. Okay. But if you're a doctor, then you are associated with the medical council where you get the permission to issue certificate. Same way, if you are architect, they have their respective council, which allows you to issue a certificate, but not for the interior designer. So that's what I just wanted to discuss. So it's not relevant. But apart from that, I want to discuss this valuer. Who is valuer? Who is valuer? Valuer means no, Vinith, not stockbroker. Brokers are not valuer. Brokers are just the intermediary who purchase the shares on behalf of the client from the stock exchange and who sells the shares on behalf of the client at the stock exchange. Who estimates the value of something? Ronak is saying who determine the value of the business. So we have a concept, we have a new concept in the Companies Act of the registered valuer, where the person has to give the exam and become a registered valuer, get themselves registered with the registered valuer organization, RVO, and IBBI, Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India. This is again the new regulator of India. So इन दोनों के साथ आप register करते हो and then you become the registered valuer. Got it? Got it? So in the Companies Act, wherever you'll find that valuation report is needed, the valuation report will be issued by this valuer only. Okay. Wherever the valuation report is needed, this will be provided by the registered valuer. Got it? So let's say I'm issuing you shares. My company is issuing you shares, and I say the face value of the share is 10 rupees, on which I want to charge a securities premium of 40 rupees. Now, it is the registered valuer who is going to say, how come this is valued at 40 and why not 60? Why not 100? Why not 20 rupees? Why 40? So it's the registered valuer who is going to value this. So wherever in the Companies Act valuation report is needed, it will be provided by the registered valuer. Got it? Is this clear, expert? Then we have the definition of financial institution. So financial institution means a scheduled bank. What is a scheduled bank? What is a scheduled bank? Which is in the schedule or which is in the list of Reserve Bank of India. So just understand, there are banks which are scheduled and there are banks which are not scheduled. Yes, the list given by the RBI, where RBI says that इनका हाथ है, मतलब इनके ऊपर मेरा हाथ है. You, in an informal way, if I have to explain you, these are the banks to whom I have the jurisdiction. I am, I won't even say the word guarantee, but just informally understand, these are provided in the schedule. These are provided in the list by the RBI. So those are the scheduled banks. So financial institution includes the scheduled bank and any other financial institution which are declared or notified by the Reserve Bank of India. Then you have the definition of financial statement. So till now, the financial statements that we use is what? It is only balance sheet and P&L account. But now if you see, financial statement will include balance sheet, profit and loss account. Then you'll also have this statement called as cash flow statement. Apart from cash flow statement, you'll also find a statement of changes in the equity. And this is the explanatory note which will be annexed to all these. So basically, explanatory statement, you can say the notes to accounts, right? Now, the proviso can be one of the MCQ question. This can be one of the MCQ question. There are three types of companies to whom the cash flow statement is not applicable, right? So if it is a one person company, or if it is a small company, or if it is a dormant company, right? These three companies need not prepare cash flow statement. Need not prepare cash flow statements, because for them cash flows, financial statements will be only balance sheet, P&L account, statement of changes in equity, and the notes to accounts. But for others, it will also include cash flow statement. So when the Companies Act says that company must prepare its financial statement, so is it talking about only the balance sheet and PL, or is it talking about five different statements where it says balance sheet, P&L account, cash flow statement, statement of changes in the equity, and the explanatory note. Okay, is this clear? All right, just remember this. This can be one of the MCQ question. Which of the following company do not require to prepare cash flow statement? So these are the three companies. Then you have the definition of financial year. Sir, is there any exemption given in the textbook? Okay, let me see. Vineet has said that there is an exemption which is given in the textbook. So this is your textbook, and let's see the definition. Students, so the exemption and modifications will be applicable to provided the financial statement. So this is the same thing that I have discussed. Provided the financial statement with respect to one person company, small company, and a dormant company, and a private company, if such private company is a startup, may not include cash flow statement. Right, right? It's the same thing. And also the profit and loss account will be referred as statement of profit and loss. So don't write P&L account. We say statement of profit and loss. Why? Because ultimately it is not a account. It is not a account. It is what? It is a statement. Account is when you have the debit and credit side, but this is not a account. This is only a statement. Also, one more thing, that statement of changes to the equity, it's written if applicable. So this is applicable only to those companies, right, where Ind AS is applicable. So this is applicable to the companies on which Ind AS is applicable. Ind AS is applicable, right? Okay. We'll see the applicability of Ind AS, and also you'll study this in accounts also. Then on which companies Ind AS is applicable. So statement of changes in equity is to be prepared by only those companies where Ind AS is applicable. Now you see, you have the definition of financial year. This is an important definition. Now just see the definition. It says that financial year in relation to a company or a body corporate means the period ending on the 31st March of the every year. So financial year will always end on the 31st day of March every year. Okay. And then further it says that, and where it has been incorporated on or after the first day of the March of year, the period ending on the 31st day of the March of the following year, in respect whereof financial statements of the company or the body corporate is made up of. So this has got two interpretations here. So when does the financial year end? When does the financial year end? So financial year will end on 31st March. This will end on 31st March every year. Then you have one additional point that you need to see, when was the company incorporated. So the date of incorporation. So if the company is incorporated from 1st January of year 1, the financial year will end on 31st March of year 2. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? Right? Next year 31st March. So let's presume you get a question, that an MCQ question, okay, that the date of incorporation of ABC Limited is, let's say, 15th January 2021. Financial year of the company will end on, option A would be 31st March 21, option B 31st March 22, option C any of the two, option D none of the two. What will be the answer? Correct. So the correct answer will be this. बिल्कुल सही. Okay. So this is there. But what if the company was incorporated? What if the company was incorporated on 31st December 2019? Then when will the financial year end? 31st March 2020 or 31st March 2021? Ritik has answered 21. Savdhani hati, durghatna ghati. Here, this is the correct answer. Ha. And this is the wrong answer. Because this is the next financial year. This is year 1 and this is year 2. Okay. कोई problem नहीं. कोई problem नहीं. Right. So this is what was there for the financial year. Now we have proviso, proviso, proviso. Fine. Let's read what does this proviso say. So quite possible that the financial year of the company, I have a blank page here. Okay. So quite possible that there is a holding company. Okay. And this holding company is in India. Then there is a subsidiary company. This subsidiary company is in, let's say, Dubai. Okay. The financial year of this company ends on 31st March, right? Let's say whatever the year is, 31st March. But the Dubai subsidiary financial year ends on 31st December. These are the facts I'm telling you, right? The practical problem. Now we have section 129, okay, which says that this holding company needs to consolidate its accounts. Consolidate its accounts with subsidiary company. How does the consolidation takes place? This is something you will learn in your accounts. I just mentioned you about consolidation also at the beginning of the lecture, right? When we were discussing about the dividends, I said you the definition of dividend will be again relevant when you study the consolidation of accounts. So this holding company needs to consolidate its accounts with the subsidiary company. But the problem is the financial years are different. Their financial year ends on 31st March. Here the financial year ends on 31st December. So this results in practical problems. So what this holding company will do, this holding company will go to the NCLT, okay, and request for the change in the financial year. They'll say, Your Lordship, dear NCLT, dear Tribunal, Your Lordship, as per Companies Act, we need to end the financial year on 31st March. But the problem is we have an overseas subsidiary in Dubai whose financial year ends on 31st of December. And because of this, we face a lot of problem in consolidating our accounts. So please allow to end the financial year on 31st. Instead of 31st March, please allow me to end the financial year on 31st December only. Got the point? Guys, is this clear? Is this clear? Right? Genuine issue. They say that we don't have a problem in ending the financial year on 31st March also. कभी ना कभी तो financial year end करना है. We don't have a problem, be it 31st March or 31st December. But because we have a overseas subsidiary and we need to consolidate the accounts with them, so there is a lot of practical problem to consolidate the accounts, right? So please allow us to change the financial year from 31st March to 31st of December. So NCLT will take into consideration your request and NCLT will allow that, okay, this holding company, you can change your financial year from instead of 31st March, you will have your financial year which will end on 31st of December. Got it? Guys, got it? Is this clear? But then NCLT is already overburdened. Okay. NCLT is already overburdened. There are so many cases which are there on NCLT. So the cases with respect to the Companies Act go to NCLT. All the person will go to NCLT. Then the cases related to Competition Act that will also go to NCLT. So basically CCI then NCLAT. So the appellate tribunal they'll go, right? Then again, in case of insolvency, bankruptcy code, the case will go to NCLT. So there are so many cases which are already there on NCLT. So NCLT is overburdened. And then we have that problem, Tariq pe Tariq. Okay. So government felt the need that we should not burden the company, the National Company Law Tribunal with so many cases. And let's delegate some of the work of NCLT to some other authority. And that's where now if the company wants to change the financial year, they will not go to NCLT, they will go to the central government. And when I say central government, what does it mean? It means the regional director at the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, right? Or you can say ROC, okay? The registrar of companies. Ujwal has asked a question, are there more cases where financial year change? No. practically you will have to change the financial year, right? Because of this reason only, or rather you'll be allowed to change the financial year because of this reason only. Like if you go by the Hindu calendar, lot of people they change their financial year from Diwali, one Diwali to other Diwali, right? You'll find a lot of Marwadis and Gujarati people changing their financial year from Diwali. They keep their financial year from Diwali to Diwali. If you log into CNBC on the Diwali day, they'll say Samvat 2000 kitna 74, 84, whatever they say, right? So they change the financial year from Diwali to Diwali. But can you go? Yes, the Muhurat trading. But can you go to the NCLT or now can you go to the regional director and say that हम लोग दिवाली to Diwali follow करते हैं, we want to change the financial year? Answer is no, you'll not be allowed to change the financial year, right? Can I keep two separate books of accounts, one ending on 31st March and another Diwali to Diwali? That is at your discretion. No, Ronak, that is at your discretion. If you want to do the additional work, it is up to you. But 31st March, I need. The books of account needs to be prepared as on the 31st March. That we need. But for your personal use, you can keep a separate financial year. But for official purpose, the financial year will end on 31st of March. Vineet is asking only for incorporate outside India it is applicable. Yes. So if you are a holding company of a subsidiary company which is incorporated outside India, or you are a subsidiary company of a holding company which is outside India. So if I say the subsidiary company is in India and the holding company is in Dubai, then also the subsidiary company can go to the tribunal, or now they can go to the regional director and they can say, we want to change the financial year because we face difficulty in consolidating. Even the associate company can go, right? So just read the proviso here where it says that provided that where a company or a body corporate which is holding company, subsidiary company or associate company of a company incorporated outside India and is required to follow a different financial year for consolidation of the accounts outside India, the central government, now you see the word central government may, the central government may. So is it mandatory for the regional director to allow? Is it mandatory for the regional director to allow? That no, since we have a overseas subsidiary or we have a overseas holding company, answer is no. It is again at the discretion of the central. The central government may, on the application made by that company or the body corporate in such form and manner as may be prescribed, allow any period as its financial year, whether or not that period is a year. So can I have a financial year of 6 months? Can I have a financial year of 6 months? Answer is yes, because it says any period. Okay, it says any period. So I can have a financial year of 6 months. Then you have this transition where it says that provided further that any application pending before the tribunal on the date of the company. So basically this change was made in 2019. So it's saying that if any application is pending before the tribunal, then that will be disposed by the tribunal. Okay. And then you'll have to align. So technically these two are OTO's provision. What is OTOs? OTOs means serving no practical purpose. Serving no practical purpose. आज की डेट में इसका कोई यूज नहीं है, तो इसको हम क्या बोलेंगे? ये एक OTOs प्रोविजन है. ठीक है, लॉ में है तो सही, लेकिन इसका कोई यूज नहीं है बिकॉज द एप्लीकेशन विच वाज पेंडिंग बिफोर द ट्रिब्यूनल इन 2019 is either till now disposed or the matter has already been settled now. Okay, so practically आपको यूज नहीं है, but yes, if it is, then ये rules applicable रहेगा. But what you need to know from the definition of the financial year, one is this part, that when does the financial year end? So it ends on 31st March every year. But if the date of incorporation is from 1st January of the year one, right? This is from 1st January of year one, then the financial year will end in on the 31st March of second year. And secondly, you need to know if the company wants to change the financial year only for the purpose of consolidation of accounts with its holding company, subsidiary company, or associate company outside India, then in that case, earlier it was NCLT, now it is the central government which will allow the change of the financial year. So why I mentioned what was before the amendment and what is now, because quite possible you may read, though you should not read, but just for knowledge purpose, if you read any reference book or if you read any other material, you come across a past exam paper solution or anything where you find solution, then you'll find a conflict between what I've taught you in the class and what is written in that text. So you understand that whatever is written where or wherever NCLT is written, this means that particular text is not updated, because earlier it was NCLT and now it is the central government which will allow for the change of the financial year. Got it? Is this clear? So the definition of financial year is important. Quite possible you may get a practical question on the end of the financial year. There can be a MCQ question also. Okay, right? Just for your knowledge, if the company wants to change the financial year, the application will be made to the regional director. Application by the company to the regional director, and this will be made in e-form RD1. Okay, in e-form RD1 the application will be made, and then you are going to also write the reasons. You will also mention the reasons why you need it. Okay, all those things. Guys, this is clear? Guys, is this clear? Okay, then the next definition that we have is of the foreign company. Let this be the last definition for the day, the definition of the foreign company. So it says that foreign company means any company or a body corporate which is incorporated outside India, which has a place of business in India, whether by itself or through agent, physically or through the electronic mode, and which conducts any business activity in India. Okay. Now, when I say foreign company which has a place of business in India and conducts the business activity in India, there is one company called as, let's say, Apple. Apple Inc. was incorporated in USA. Okay. Plus, it has factory in India. Is Apple a foreign company? Is Apple a foreign company? Is Apple a foreign company? Answer is yes. This is a foreign company. Okay. What about electronic mode? Take for example, Amazon, again incorporated in USA, but it does the e-commerce in India. So again, this is a foreign company, right? Then I say there is a company, let's say, so this is a dummy company that I'm making, TPA, which is again incorporated in USA, and it does not have a business in India. Is it a foreign company? Is it a foreign company? Answer is no. Okay. Then what is TPA? So TPA is not a foreign company. But can I say TPA is a body corporate? Can I say TPA is a body corporate? Very good. Very good. Because the definition of body corporate is what? The company which is incorporated outside India. But if that has a business in India, that body corporate will become a foreign company. If it does not have a business in India, it will just remain body corporate. Okay. Okay. Right. So we can call it off for the day. And tomorrow we'll start with the definition of free reserves. Okay. So that's it for today's lecture. Yeah, sure, Ronak. Doubt. बताइए. Vested period. Okay. Vesting period is this. Just see. When we discuss about employee stock option, vesting period is the time period where you will have to actually wait. During these time, you have the option, but you cannot do anything. You cannot exercise. It's like you recharge the mobile phone. Okay. Just understand this. It's a very simple, very simple concept. Let's say in the month of January, you do a recharge. Okay. And you do a recharge where you get 150 GB data. Correct? But there is a catch in this. 150 GB data, you can use it this way. And this you can use it for 3 months. But it is like this. 50 GB in the month of January. Then further 50 in the month of Feb. And then further 50 in the month of March. Okay. Now, let's say in the month of January, you have used entire 50 GB, let's say by 20th Jan. Can you use these two data? Can you say to the regulator that आपने 150 GB बोला था 3 महीने तक, let me use? Answer is no. So what will you say? In the month of January, 50 GB data is vested. Okay. And the balance 100 GB is what? It is unvested. Got it? The balance 100 GB is unvested. Understood? Right? Now let's say in the month of Feb, let's say by 28th of Feb, you have used only 40 GB data. In March, how much data you can use? 60 or 50? Only 50. Why? Because the balance 10 has lapsed. Now, can you correlate the entire ESOP? Right? So that's it for today's lecture. Tomorrow's lecture, we are going to start with the definition of free reserves. So take care. Bye bye.